Welcome to this week's GMBN Tech Show. Coming up on the show this week, we have
some muck-off anti-theft valves.
We've got some handmade carbon bikes from Yorkshire, I believe.
Gravel chit-chat, although slightly gravel-hating chit-chats. Don't panic just yet.
Oh, good. I was panicking there for a minute. And return of the quiz, and we've got some bike cave as well.
Now, before we lose all of our followers here, we're wondering, when is a gravel bike just a rubbish mountain bike, basically?
It's just aimed at me or them. Oh, we could go for ages on this one.
I know, we get some stick, don't we, for mentioning gravel bikes, but, you know, there is a difference.
They're still bikes. They're not that bad, are they?
No, well, don't give in just yet. Come on, let's have an argument here. Okay. Right, I did a little bit of research, so just to give you some comparisons here, because we're not talking about, is it a retro mountain bike here? We're talking, is it, you know, close to just a normal hardtail, should we say? Because we've got full suspension on gravel bikes now. They're blurring the lines here. There's full suspension gravel bikes, like front and rear. We're not just front suspension as well, like the Niner.
Oh my, yeah, I've seen that bike and it is a very nice bike, but that, I just do not understand it. I really don't. I'm not even trying to, I can't even slag it off because I like the brand, but I just do not get that bike.
Yeah, so it's the Niner MCR9 RDO. It's a really catchy name. Yeah. It's got 50mm front and rear, ready to tackle stuff gravel bikes shouldn't ride. Well, don't ride a gravel bike then.
It's just like, I really struggle with that.
At the end of it, I'm not hating on Niner at all. I'm of the camp that gravel does something quite specific, and it's definitely not just XC hardtailing. I think, before I talk about the differences here, I think we're in danger because our gravel is a little bit different to other people's gravel. No?
What do you mean?
Well, because we just ride bridleways, which is chunky. It is really chunky. Yeah, and I think there is a grading of gravel.
Because there's like a Steve Jones bridleway. The Steve Jones gravel road is not gravel.
No, I bet it's not.
We did a video with EMBN where someone from each channel basically had to turn up. And Ollie Bridgewood from GCN turned up on the basis that Jonesy said, it's a gravel road. But the Welsh gravel road was like Babyhead Rocks.
Yeah.
It's just bigger gravel.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. Well, let's look at what Canyon are offering. So they have a gravel bike called Grail, which is definitely very road oriented. So we're not even going to compare with that. It's only rigid only. But their Grizzle is a front suspension hardtail with a sort of a flexi rear. And for basically the frame weight is 950, whereas if we look at the Canyon XC, the Exceed hardtail is just over 800, so it's 835 grams. So not much in that.
This is where gravel bikes just don't make sense to me. Like I don't.
So it's not much lighter. Yeah. And then you've got a front suspension fork on there. Granted, the Exceed has a 100mm suspension fork, whereas the gravel has a whopping 30mm of travel.
It's going to take the buzz out, I guess, isn't it?
It is. Well, that's the point, isn't it? Anyone going, well, if I can, what's the point of 30mm? I might as well go for 100. I mean, at the end of the day, your gravel bike, you're supposed to be sort of sat up. It's just dampening stuff. You're not meant to be riding down
the thing
gnarly XC descents.
I get that, but the thing that I really struggle with between the two is you often hear people in favour of gravel saying, gravel bikes make sense because you can change your position on the bars. I think Neil was saying that to you in the office earlier. And whilst that does make sense to me, I do get that. Also, look at things like the Cape Epic, which are mass stage races, and you're on the mountain bikes, and it's not the most challenging terrain as such. Like, you know, train's a bit more basic. Arguably, you might be able to do that on a gravel bike if you're a sadist, but...
It looks that way, but I've heard Cape Epic is actually quite technical.
I'm sure there's a lot you don't see.
I'm not sure, but yeah. But I get what you're saying. If you're out on the open, dusty roads, then probably a gravel bike would be great for them.
There is an answer for cross-country bikes. If you haven't got enough hand positions, and that's go back to bar ends.
Don't go back to bar ends.
So AJ, he's a guy that works at Giant. He looks a bit like Dolph Lundgren from Rocky 4. Yeah, it looks like him a little bit. Yeah, he's gone back to bar ends. He's dragged out a set of Onza bar ends that he used to run back in the day to make his cross-country bike more versatile, I think, to basically not have to get a gravel bike.
Well, I mean, going back to the sort of, the blurred lines of XC and why aren't they riding gravel bikes in Cape Epic? I mean, the geometry is obviously worlds apart here. So if we look at the Grizzle has a head angle of 71 to 73 degrees, size dependent, whereas over on the Exceed, it's like 69 degrees. They've got similar seat angles. Well, actually, the Grizzle is 73.5, whereas the Exceed is 75. So, and also the reach is much shorter on the gravel bike.
Of course, because you've got the forward extension of the bars and stuff. Yeah.
For sure. But what I'm saying is the steeper angles are basically, you're going to need a snappy little thing. Or if you're actually riding real gravel here, you're not going to need, like on the Exceed, is designed for going down XC World Cup courses, going fast down a descent where you're stood up, you need a big cockpit, you need to move around, you want wide bars so that you can handle any twitches from the front wheel, that sort of stuff.
Sounds right.
If you're riding that on a gravel bike, of course it's going to feel like a crap mountain bike, because you shouldn't be riding that.
Right. You're going to have to sell this to me. I've got an idea, right? So I've been sent an Orbea, I haven't looked at it, I think you've seen it, an Orbea cross-country bike. I don't know if it's got a rigid fork or not, but for argument's sake, let's get a rigid fork on it. I'll ride the mountain bike, and then you ride a gravel bike, and you can tell me why the gravel bike is better for that. And I'll be totally open-minded. I'm not going to try and sabotage it. I think I want to know what the difference is, because we've said this before about involving them on a channel, but I reckon that's where we could start, and we can make a pretty good comparison video of actually where the lines cross and what is better for the situation, and then we can move on from there. How about that?
I think we should, yeah. And
our bike's here, and I think you've got a gravel bike turned up, haven't you?
It's just turned up, yeah. The Grizzle is
It's going to film itself, this video, it sounds like. If you've got ideas for this sort of stuff for gravel content, let us know. Obviously, we're going to favour the mountain bike mostly because we're mountain bikers, but we're definitely interested in gravel bikes and where sort of the blurred lines are.
So in the news today, we have a new product from Muck-Off, which is basically a stealth Apple tag, which attaches to the valve on the inside of the tyre. Have a look at this. So basically, you can track the app. Well, you can attach an Apple Air tag, and then you can track it from the Find My app, which if anyone has an iPhone and have used it to find your iPad or your iPhone, it's a similar system.
So that uses other people as well, doesn't it? So if there's someone near with a phone, it can use their phone to triangulate. Is that the term?
And it basically pops up on a map to see where it is, and you can zoom and find it.
So it's another security aid, really.
Yeah, it's much like their stealth tag that was secured on a bottle boss, basically. But now it is a smaller form and basically out of sight, so you shouldn't be able to see it. And assuming they don't take the wheels off, it'll be there and they won't know it. So
well, that's kind of cool, but the picture you just showed me, it looks like it's quite big on the inside of the tyre.
It looks, now I haven't seen this in the flesh, it looks big, but it has this kind of silicone wrap over the top. It also has compression sort of built into it, so it's basically, if you impact it, it should kind of break away or rebound out.
I would impact it as well.
You would be lucky enough to do so, yeah. So it should be $14.99 British pounds, or €19.99 or $19.99 on its own, or you can buy it as a pack with some valves, or you can just buy it on its own and attach it to whatever colour you want.
Do you know what? There's a great idea surrounding this exact product we need to do. I'd call it entrapment, but there's a presenter here somewhere, and I don't know who it is. The stuff magically just disappears when it's left around. I honestly don't know who it is. Could be Jonesy, could be Chris, could be Blake. Don't know.
I'd put my money on Jonesy.
Let's get one in. Let's get it on a bike, and let's see what happens to it. See where it ends up. Yeah, pretty cool stuff, that, I think. I've never used the AirTag stuff, but I do like the idea of it, additional security. And they seem quite simple, don't they, those things? Pretty cool. Next up, PCs have sent us a couple of their latest bits from the whole shop range. Now, I did check these out at the Core Bike Show a while back, and they weren't actually released at the time. But really, the thing I want to talk about is this. Now, I'm sure some of you are familiar with repairing tubeless punctures. Now, you have the little two-prong, essentially, that handles the little rubber worms that go on the inside, and they can be incredibly infuriating to load up. The thing with this, it just has a single prong, which is bigger, and it's actually profiled in a way that helps you sort of stab it into your tyre. Super easy to load them up onto here. And I just think that itself is a great tool. And I don't see anyone else making them in this shape at the moment. Because it's from the PT's range, you get all the Chris King colours. This one's called Bourbon, quite a classy colour. Good job, like Steve Peace had nothing to do with the colours, because he'd probably do like a Stella Artois beer colour one. It might look like piss, really, rather than a decent anodised colour. But really cool stuff. And this one essentially is just an adapter for a CO2 bottle to get the air in. But what they found when they were developing their own ones was that a lot of the ones have like 90-degree angles and stuff. Firstly, they freeze quicker, and secondly, you lose some of the capacity in that process of it getting out. So actually, more efficient technically, and it looks nice.
So you basically screw it on and then you just push down.
Yeah, and a little note for you, they've got these little rubber boots on them so your hands don't freeze to them.
Big enough as well, yeah.
Yeah, so these retail for, give me 2 seconds, MTB kit. The inflated kit is $29.99, which is $34.99 in euros and $39.99 in US dollars. And the little claw-shaped little bad boy that you can store, by the way, inside there. A set of the 1.5 and the 3mm plugs on the inside of those. They retail for $21.99 or $25.99 in euros and $29.99 in US dollars. All the typical Chris King colours, but nice bit of kit that.
Certainly fun to play with.
Yeah.
So over in Yorkshire, here in sunny England, Carbon Wasp have been. Have you heard of these guys?
See, I've seen them floating around, but I never really realised their production. I just thought they were like cool prototypes and that. So yeah, right, fire away.
So
what we got?
Carbon Wasp, they're basically handmade carbon here in England, which I didn't know anyone was doing yet. So that passed me by a little bit. But they've just released a brand new short travel full suspension bike called the Truffle. I didn't know we had truffles in England. Did we get truffles?
Why is it called the Truffle?
Maybe it's an in-joke, I don't know. But check this out on screen. This is the aptly wasp-coloured yellow. It's
Angry.
It's a 120mm 29er. It is intended for XC trail use here. So it can accommodate 120 up to 140mm forks. It's got boost rear, threaded BB, integrated headsets, internal cables, and a pork pie storage box.
Pork pie storage. Couldn't get much more northern than that.
Very northern. So yeah.
Like it.
Geometry, head angle, we've got a 65.5 degree head angle.
For a 120mm bike, you say?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice angles, yeah.
And a seat angle of 76 with reach starting at 430 for small, 455 for medium. Large is 480 and extra large is 510.
510.
So
nice.
I'm feeling like
Good
this is
sizing.
like a trail bike in short travel guise. But
Could we put
Yorkshire
an
is
term
pretty.
against it?
It's not
It
down
is.
country.
It's not.
It's not, is it?
I don't know.
It's not.
I don't
It's
know.
a short
Is it?
travel trail bike in my eyes. If you've ever ridden in Yorkshire, it's pretty chunky XC, isn't
Yeah.
it? I would say. It's XC, straight, fast, but it's chunky.
Yeah.
So that's what they're going for there.
That's really nice.
And they're using
Yeah.
flex stays on the rear. What are you
Yeah.
saying about flex stays with full susses?
I think
How do
any
you feel
more
about
than 110mm travel, and you can start compromising the quality of the travel. Like in some cases, but the advantage, you get really light back end, and that's why most of the frames in the XCO World Cup use that style configuration. Single pivot with a sort of linkage driving the shock, and then a little bit of flex in the stays. I like it. It's good. Canyon have got that on that Lux.
Yeah.
Been using it, works really well, but I guess you won't see it above, I don't know, maybe above 120mm. Any more than that, it just can't move enough to be active, I guess. Might be proven wrong, there might be a bike out there.
I don't know, I've not had much time on anything like that.
I think it's great on, like I say, this is like a lightweight frame, so it suits the frame.
Yeah, and
Good
it
application.
seems to suit the location as well. So that's 2,800 British pounds for just the frame with a rear shock.
Oh, I quite like the look of this bike. Liking it. Next up in news, Outbound Lighting. This is a company I hadn't heard of, but I'm going to be using these on a cool project soon. You're going to have to keep an eye out. So, company hailing from Chicago. They've got, I think, Chicago, yeah, and they make them in Chicago as well. So there's a couple of different lights. So you've got a Hangover, which is the helmet-based light, which surprisingly light actually for what it's got on there. And then you've got a Trail Evo. So this bad boy retails for 203 quid here in the UK. When you go on the website, it sort of does your native choice in pricing. Made in Chicago, 2.5 hours. This will last at on adaptive mode, which they call it actually, 2,100 to 2,200 lumens. So there's a lot going on this, considering your battery is built in here. It's got a through charging system, so it's USB-C to quick charge, but you can use it at the same time. So you could dongle this to like power packs and stuff. So if you're doing bike packing or adventure multi-day riding, you can keep using it whilst it's being charged, which is good.
Nice.
The same with that one.
Yeah.
Widespread beam on there. It's got 4 modes. It's got low, medium, high, and adaptive, which isn't what I thought it was to start with. The adaptive mode sounds like it starts off much brighter, and as you're riding along, as your eyes get used to the brightness, it just slightly dims down to save power. Standard.
I just had to try it.
And it's got a solid mount, and it's really nice and neat. And it can sit in front of the stem there, or it can go on top of bars, wherever you like that. And then the handlebar mount, the helmet-mounted one, called the Hangover, basically a lower-powered version. So this one's between 900 and 1,000 lumens, 104 quid that costs in the UK. And the same thing, it's got the 4 settings on there, including the adaptive, which makes the most of the battery, so it lasts 1.6 hours. On the adaptive mode.
I can't believe how light this is.
It's pretty good, isn't
considering
it?
how big this looks in.
Yeah,
there
can't
you
weigh
go.
on my nose.
Oh,
No, they're too light for that.
This is less than a GoPro, I would say, isn't it? Way less.
And mounting any sort of
feel.
light on your helmet can be a problem, obviously, because your helmet moving around and stuff.
Yeah.
So, good little setup. You'll find out a bit more about these when I use them in this project that's coming up. But outbound lighting, well worth a look, I reckon. Time for some quiz questions. It has returned. So I've got 3 questions coming at you. First question on screen right now. RockShox has got a gravel fork called Ruby. It has a similar name to one of the early mountain bike forks. What was that called? Any ideas? Anyone?
I know this one because I used to have it. It's my first bike.
Okay. Santa Cruz Bikes launched the Juliana range of bikes. Who is it named after though? If you like your old tack, you're definitely going to know this. Not to suggest the bike's old tack, I just mean it's like she comes from the old days. Very cool. And the next one, that sounds really bad.
The
I
old
didn't mean to
tap
say
days.
that. No, it's not. You know
She
what I
come
mean.
from your days, so it's insulting you.
From my era. No, it's amazing. And the last one is, what is this tool for? I've got to show you the tool actually.
This is great TV.
Here we go. And it is great TV.
Great,
What's this tool for? There we go.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in my toolbox.
We'll pick up the answers in a bit. Okay, into comments. There's loads of comments, to be honest. We just pasted in some of the best ones here. The topic from last week was the rise or the demise of XC hardtails. So the first one was from Neil Horton. On the hardtail topic, it was telling to see in the women's race when Mona would take time back on the climbs and then lose all that time on the descents. I think Amosini probably wishes he had a full suspension in the men's race as well.
I think someone said that in our office,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Yeah.
Exactly those words.
I mean, it's difficult. Like, whatever your choice is as a racer, the fact that you've got to ride the same bike in both races in the XC, it makes it more of a gamble. So I sympathise with anyone if you're making a choice and it's not quite right. But hey, that's the way racing goes.
Also, I think with the women, the sort of lack of weight in a hardtail, there's definitely more hardtails in the women's race because I think the whole power to weight has a little bit more to play there. But yeah, you're right. Full sus did win.
Covering the ground in this case, anyway. Next up from Jason, who says, I like hardtails as a second bike for winter riding and cheaper costs. That makes sense, yeah. That said, XC raced hardtails are on life support. Full suspension is needed since the courses are so gnarly now. Yeah, I agree. And although it is, I do think, still important for hardtails to be raced because you're not closing the sport off. You know, if everyone only raced on, high-end suspension bikes, it seems like an unachievable sport. So despite my reservations about hardtails at that top level, I do really like still seeing them.
Yeah.
Because of the fact is like, hey, anyone can buy a hardtail bike, budget entry level bike and just get beast fit and enter a race.
And then there's that trickle down for what, Joe Public can afford to run, not necessarily a race one.
Yeah.
As well.
So, I mean, it is cool that they get to do it on both types of bike. I'd quite like them to be able to race whatever they wanted in both races rather than pick one for both races.
Yeah.
Pick the best tool for the job.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Whatever. Next up, I can never afford or spend as much for full suspension as versus a hardtail at the same quality. Yeah, that's a really important thing. You can get a hardtail with much better componentry and spec on it than you can with an equivalent price to full suspension bike. Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time though, don't think too much about the spec on your bike, because the frame and fork are kind of the most important bits, because a lot of the other stuff are consumable parts you're going to wear out as you ride. So you could, in theory, spend a little, similar amount and have less quality components on your full suspension bike, and then as you wear the stuff out, upgrade bit by bit, giving you a chance to sort of save a bit of money. Obviously, that's not going to work for everyone, but I think it's a good way of thinking about things. Next from Laszlo Bax, I ride both FS and hardtail, both cross country, and love both for different trail conditions. However, I tend to grab the hardtail more often. It's lighter, more nimble, and faster, especially uphill. Definitely going to be lighter and more nimble. There is something about riding a bike that's just that light as well, just the way it surges when you really put it down. I think it feels really cool. It's kind of like a little angry thing as well to try and control through stuff. It feels like it's fighting you, and you're like, no, we're going this way.
Yeah, I've heard it said before that I don't like the term underbiking, but people say it's fun to underbike sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the same reason, why it's just funny riding inappropriate bikes in places sometimes. Kind of like, I guess, why a lot of mountain bikers ride gravel bikes, because they're having a laugh. And I get that, it's cool.
Check this out, I've got a bike cave for you. It's been sent in from Cathal in Dublin, and he basically had a big brick shed at the bottom of the garden, which during lockdown he was forced to revamp it into an office, and decided to turn it into a bit of a bike cave come chill out zone come office.
Look at that BC Boys print on the wall. That's where it's at. Oh yeah.
Don't get too stuck on that one. That's before. Now, keep flicking through, and you can see where it looks like afterwards.
Little cheers logo down the back.
keep going.
Look, it's getting Four Eyes of Rocky poster. Oh, come on. It's getting better already.
So there we go. This is the finished bit. So he's got some shelving up. He's got some old memorabilia in there. Looks like an old helmet up on the shelf.
Yeah.
He's got his parts
workshop
work
area.
Stand.
GMBN on the wall down there. Is that on an iPad?
GMBN is on the screen. He's been watching it. He's slowly upgraded to dual screen so he can work and watch GMBN Tech, as everyone should be.
Work and watch GMBN Tech. I mean, you've got your emails open on screen. You're like this. Look at the other one.
And he's got his bikes on the walls to save some space, and basically uses it as a workshop.
Pretty big space, looking at how little room the bikes take up.
And I spotted a little custom Curtis in there as well. If you keep flicking
through,
I
can see that.
So I'm loving the fairy lights and all the wooden Brooklyn shelving.
Oh, look at that, Cannondale.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's an old Super V. Oh man, I love those. I always wanted one of those the first time around.
What's interesting is every one of these photos is slightly different. So, Cathal, I'm assuming you just keep tweaking this. Every week he's working.
A little bit of bike art
and
down
tweaking.
There. Little
candle holder. Lovely.
And this is awesome. Good space.
Yeah, so he's got his Curtis hung up next to the child seat, and he's got his mountain bike magazines next to his wedding photos.
It's evolving.
Love it.
Pictures.
Yeah, there you go. So we're seeing the evolution.
Little SX. Is that an SX 24 or 26? Don't know. Can't see.
No idea.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an AM.
So there we go.
All mountain hardtails. Very nice.
Yeah,
some good stuff going on in there.
Yeah, it looks like he's custom colour-coded the wall to his toolbox as well. Is that what you've done there? I did that didn't go unnoticed. I liked it. Very good bike cave.
Right, that was an awesome bike cave. We want to see more bike caves. Take some pictures of your shed, the back of your van, your loft, wherever it is you store your bike. Doesn't matter what it looks like, we want to see it. There's a link right there, and there's another one down there. You can click on it through to our uploader. Get involved. We want to talk about your stuff on the show, so show us your pride and joy and where you work on your bikes. In the meantime, let's just have our quiz answers before we get out of it. So the first question was, RockShox has a gravel fork called the Ruby, had a mountain bike fork with a similar name. Any ideas?
Judy.
Yeah,
because I had some of them.
Yeah, great name. Wasn't the best fork.
Set of pogo
originally.
Sticks.
Yeah. But they looked so cool when they came out compared to everything else. Everything else was so skinny and they had big wide stance on them, which is ironic because you look at stuff now and it's massive by comparison. Next up, Santa Cruz Bikes launched the Juliana range. Who's it named after? Did you know this?
I didn't, but I remember the name.
Juliana Furtado, or Julie Furtado. She's amazing. Absolutely incredible racer. Raced downhill, raced cross country, often on the same bike, and she'd smash it. basically, and won at the first mountain bike world championships, and then later retired from the sport, but now brand ambassador and behind brands like Juliana. Very cool. And last one, what is that tool for?
CCP, it's a something puller, because that's what park tools
It's
do,
a
isn't it?
crank puller. I had to use this in a video the other day, and I'd forgotten they existed. So when I used to work in a bike shop, it felt like I had to use that all the time.
Right.
But now, because cranks are so much better, and you just don't have to use them anymore.
So
and it is a nice tool that
screw it
works
in.
well, but what you have to take off is a crank off a square
Pop it
taper
out.
axle.
Yeah, that was
Square
before my
taper
time.
axle is just the worst. Good riddance to bad rubbish. And hooray to mountain bike tech. So you need less tools now, thankfully. I don't know if that's a good thing. I like more tools, but you need less tools to look after your bike. You don't need
More
loads of
useful
things
ones.
like this. But yeah, all good stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Give us some feedback down there. Let us know about the gravelly, non-gravelly stuff.
Gravel? Question mark?
Yeah.
No.
We'll
And see you again next week.
See you later.